Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Yup, let's stomp towards an obviously armed dude angry like. That always ends well, right? Not to mention with a cop very close by. Really stupid people. I love how this ended. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. I don't work here, and I'm armed. I was confused for a Walmart employee like 4 years ago after I quit in a store I never worked in while wearing tan 5.11 tactical pants, my duty belt and thigh holster with my sidearm in it, a green polo, and a ballistic vest with giant reflective letters that said, Security. I was there getting a sandwich because I didn't want gas station food and Taco Bell was the only place near me I could eat while at work and it was closed. So while driving between client properties, I stopped in to get food. Once I got back to the deli, some couple, Karen and her husband, approached me and demanded I go and check in the back for a bookshelf. I just looked at them and walked away. I get up front to buy my food, and there they are, screaming at a poor CSM who had no idea what was going on. Karen's husband then sees me and, like an effing idiot, approaches me and got inside my personal space to start yelling at me. Remember what I said I was wearing? Yeah, loaded effing gun, can of OC spray, baton, but no taser, not certified to use one, nor do I own one. The works. At this point, the dude drew the attention of the store's contracted security guard. Poor, unarmed security guard walks up to see what's going on. Before anyone can say anything else, I told her to stay back and call the police. Guy hears the word police, and he turned and ran out of the store. Meanwhile, Karen's still yelling at the poor CSM. I pay for my food and call my boss to tell him I'm going to be off all sites for a while and what just happened. Cops showed up about 2 minutes after the call because the store security told them some guy was screaming at an armed security guard and they were worried he might get himself shot. 2 weeks later, I'm on our problem site, one that had been robbed 4 times under our care. We weren't incompetent. They hit when we were off duty. It's like 1 in the morning and I've parked the car in a line of used cars and cut the lights and engine to watch the spot of the property where the break-ins had occurred. And who do I see looking at cars? Effing Karen and her husband. So first thing I do, call my boss at like 1 in the morning and tell him who I see. I was told to call the police and then get them off the lot. So I called the sheriff's office because they're literally 4 minutes down the road from where I was at, and the police were about 20. And when a deputy showed up, I slid over to that side of the lot and told her the whole story from 2 weeks prior. Then we made our approach. I initiated contact, told them I remember them and hoped they were fine from the other night, and then firmly told them they could not be on the lot outside of normal business hours and that they had to leave. Karen flips her crap and starts screaming. Her husband, clearly very agitated, stomps towards me. At that point, my sidearm came out of the holster and I went into myself from my main job, which was a correctional officer. Went from nicest guy in the world to I'm about to make you bite the effing curb faster than you can blink, like Dark Helmet to Darth Vader. The deputy pops out to my right, taser out, and laser bouncing around the guy's chest. Karen screamed and backed off. Once the deputy came out, I got quiet and let her give the commands. After all, I'm just a security guard. She's the actual law enforcement officer. Dude sees he's about to be tased and possibly shot, so he complied with her commands. Both of them went to jail that night for misdemeanor trespassing. And no, those two weren't the thieves from the thefts mentioned earlier. They were just trying to look at cars without a salesman harassing them. They're just a-holes. Those guys were caught a month later when they stole a Porsche that had a GPS tracker in it. That's also the most excitement I've had as a security guard. Most nights I just try to stay awake and not eat too much. And our second story. You don't want to mess with me, you don't know who I am. So a little backstory. At the time of this fine little encounter, I was working the customer service desk at a grocery store. We sold cigarettes, lottery, and did the money transfers through a separate company. It was also the hub for returns, complaints, and just general douchebaggery. Oh, and you were pretty much a supervisor/money runner to all the cashiers while doing all of this. I'd already put in my 2 weeks about 3 weeks before this, and they really needed me for another 2 weeks. I was at the point where I truly didn't care because I didn't get paid enough for stuff like this. and they couldn't exactly fire me, so I didn't hold back on rude customers. The way the money transfers worked was that you'd fill out a nice little form with all your information, and if you were receiving money, you also had to have your tracking number. There was a point in time that you didn't need that number, but the company changed the rules and I couldn't do anything without your tracking number. Also, every single little thing on the form had to be spelled correctly, or the only thing you were getting was a big, fat nope. Most stores have a kiosk and you don't have to fill out the forms, but our store did not, and it was a point of confusion and anger for everyone. So fast forward to this day in particular, when I had already come from my first job just in time for the busiest part of the day. As soon as I clock in and do all my counting, there's a line back to the registers. We have one money transfer machine and there's 6 people in line that need to make one. Enter Stupid B, SB for short. She's smacking her gum, has obnoxiously huge sunglasses on indoors, and has a matching attitude. She hands me a slip of paper with a transfer number on it. I inform her that she'll need to fill out a form and I'd be happy to help her once it's filled out. SB: well, I don't have to do this crap at location 3 miles away. Me: well, they have an electronic kiosk and we don't. We have to have those for our records. SB: I don't know why you guys have to do this crap. I have the effing transfer number. What more do you need? Me: first name, last name, and location that they're sending from, and your information. Basically all the boxes on that form. Enter sarcastic smug look. SB: I want to talk to your manager. I don't have to do this at the other store. Me: my manager's in the back and you can wait for them, but they're going to give you the same answer. You don't have to provide the information. You can go down to location 3 miles down the road and do it there, or you can fill out the form and I'll do your transfer. SB steps aside and mumbles crap under her breath. I help the next couple of customers until SB has finished her form. She hands it to me and I don't say a word to her until something pops up asking for ID, since it's a large amount from a different country. Me: I just need your ID to finish the transaction. SB: why do you need that now? If you needed it, then why wasn't it on the form? Me: because it's only certain transactions that are flagged by transfer company. Stupid B has another mumbling tantrum about how she shouldn't have to do it. I've already had an incredibly long day. I'm tired and I really have no time to argue with her about another thing. Me: listen, I really don't care about your ID. Transfer company is the only one that does, and putting in false information goes against most laws in place for money laundering. You definitely don't have to give me your ID, but then I don't have to do the transaction. It doesn't matter how much you argue or complain, I'll still need your ID in the form. So you can give me your ID or you can leave, and those are about your only 2 options here. SB hands over her ID, mumbles inaudibly, and waits until the end of the transaction to yell, I know this B ain't giving me attitude. Me: I didn't give you an attitude. I told you your options when you didn't want to comply with the rules. SB: you don't want to F with me. You don't know who I am. Me: well, I mean, all your information's in the system. Enter smuggest look I've ever given anyone. SB mumbled under her breath about how this B better give me my money and other crackhead sayings while I took my sweet time counting every single bill. Everyone behind her in line looked physically uncomfortable. She then left and I never saw her again. Those 3 weeks were the most liberating times of my customer service days, and I'm so thankful for the fact that I don't have to work with those machines anymore. I still have nightmares about them. And our next story. Neighbor's child joins gathering and he's, not invited. Backstory. There's a child in my apartment complex who's allowed to run wild, is extremely disrespectful to adults, recently ruined my Mommy and Me event, taking my autistic son to get ice cream because he wanted the $10 ice cream and decided to pout until his mother offered to pay for what he wanted. He rides his bike aggressively towards my children, who are 2, 5, and 10, literally having to brake so he doesn't hit my child, and worse, my kids always fall off their bikes due to this behavior. The mom doesn't reprimand said child and believes no one should say anything to said child. Whenever my adult friend and I are outside hanging out, here comes said kid. I've spoken to the parent about him not being in adults' faces, etc., and he continues. I literally have to shut my window to have a conversation with my children because he sits outside listening by my window, instead of being upstairs on the deck as Mommy pays for. Today, it's Memorial Day. My family and I are grilling and hanging out, and here he comes to participate in my gathering, asking for food, involving himself with guests, etc., etc. Am I the a-hole for telling him to go upstairs with his own family? And our last story. Neighbors want to take down the wall on the border of the property. I, 31-year-old female, live in the UK. I bought my house 2 years ago. My house is in a row of blocks of 2 houses, semi-detached, with a shared wall on one side and a garage with a gap next to the property line on the other. My neighbors, male and female, 65-ish, when they bought their house, took down their garage and extended their house towards the property line. They now have a gap of about 70 centimeters or 28 inches between their property and the property line. I have the garage in a 3-meter, 9 foot 10 inches gap towards the property line. I have a little vegetable garden there. I also have a 2-meter, 6 foot 5 inch tall fence with a gate that separates the front and back gardens. I've talked to my neighbors several times as we both have been having work done on our houses. No arguments, all very pleasant. I got woken up yesterday, Monday, morning by men asking me to move my car off my driveway. They seemed really annoyed. I was surprised as I had no idea who they were. When they told me that they were landscapers, I told them they had the wrong house and it was my neighbors having their garden done. He then told me, very slowly, like I was an idiot, the only way to do that was to take down the wall on the property line we jointly own and my fence so they could get a digger, excavator, and equipment into my neighbor's backyard. I told them I never agreed to that and they didn't have my permission to move my fence. The landscapers were outside for a few hours, blocking my driveway with their van/trailer, talking on the phone and just staring at my house. They left at around midday. I called my brother to come round as I expected a confrontation with my neighbors. At around 5, they came home. I heard slamming car doors and then banging on my door like they were the police. I will admit that they were calm, not shouting. They said they're going to charge me for the day's cost of the landscapers. The landscapers will be back tomorrow, and I better have my car off the driveway. I agree that we talked about their garden plans. We have also talked about my kitchen reno and what color they painted their front door. They never said anything to me about taking down the wall or my fence. I have 2 large dogs, bull mastiffs. I would never have agreed to it. I need an enclosed garden for them. I left a note on my fence saying I put a camera up and to not touch my fence. Looking at the camera playback, the landscapers arrived this morning, took a photo of my note, and left again. They didn't knock on my door. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.